Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. Today I want to show you how to quickly create this cute weather icon animation that can be used, for example, in a weather app or weather forecast website or in projects like that. And I really hope you will enjoy this one, and if you do, please don't forget to leave a like, it will really help me. And if you're new to the channel and you want to see more tutorials like this in the future, please hit that subscribe and additionally bell button if you want to get notified when I release something new. And if you're new to the world of 3D and Blender and you want to become a 3D illustrator, go and check out my courses that are carefully designed to teach you beginner and intermediate skills in quickest and most effective way. For example, with the new Ultimate 3D bundle, you can go from simple cubic designs all the way to full character illustration in a matter of weeks. So if you're interested, please go check out the link in the description. Let's jump right into empty Blender file, and first of all we'll need some cloud icon that we'll use, and I will use SVG icon for this. Of course, this could be easily traced from image using circles and then connected together, but it's generally easier to just import some SVG shape. So if you don't have any at your disposal, you can find the link in the description and download some cloud SVG, even though it might be a little bit different from mine because I'm using the font awesome icons here. So first of all, let me just select everything here, press X and delete, and now I will go File, Import and Scalable Vector Graphics SVG, and then I just pick the cloud icon. You can see it right here, and we can just select it and scale it up so it's better visible. Now I'll rotate this a little bit and press R, then X and 90 degrees. And right now I will go to the curve settings and switch the fill mode to none, and then just go to the materials panel and remove the SVG matte. And now we can just right click and choose convert to mesh. And let's now go to the front view by pressing 1 on a numpad, and we can make this a little bit larger. So let's go into the edit mode by pressing tab. Let's press A to select all and press G and move it here so the origin point is in the middle, and let's scale this up a little bit, something like this. And now we'll need to clean up some things because there are some very dense places in terms of vertices, so we'll just go ahead and dissolve them. So let's select some of these and press Ctrl X to dissolve, and we'll zoom in on these areas here and basically just select this whole area and press Ctrl X to dissolve, and then press G twice and slide the vertex up so there's a little bit more of that space. This is important because we'll use bevel modifier. And now here I want to, remove this every third vertex probably, so we have some spacing there, but we keep the curvature. And here let's do something like this as well. So as you can see, there is always some cleanup involved when you're importing like sketches and vector objects and things like that. But this should work just fine. So now let's press A to select all, press F to fill and E to extrude, and this will be our cloud. So just to be safe, let's press A again and Shift N to recalculate normals. Now we can go to the modifiers panel, tab out and add a bevel modifier. Now to make the geometry a little bit cleaner, let's go and switch this to arc, and now we'll increase the segments and reduce the amount a tiny bit, something like this. If it does quite large jumps, it might be that this is scaled up in the object mode. So let's press Ctrl A and apply the scale, and you will see the bevel changed, and now you have much better control over the actual bevel. And one last setting here, let's enable harden normals, right click and shade auto smooth and increase all the way to 180 degrees so we have a nice smooth cloud shape. Now let's go to the front view and let's press Shift A and let's add a camera. And now I'll hold Ctrl Alt and press 0 on a numpad to place the camera, and now we can just press G and place it a little bit better, so it's centered. And now in the output tab, let's change the resolution to something like 1600 to 1200, and then I'll switch the frame rate to 30. That'll be the target frame rate for our animation. And now I'll press G then Z twice and move this out tiny bit, and we can start to add to our composition. So first of all, let's press Shift A and we'll add a round cube. If you don't have this option here, go ahead and in the preferences add-ons activate extra objects add-on, and you should see all of these options right here. Now let's add a round cube and choose quad sphere preset. I generally find this sphere much nicer to smooth and to work with because it's made out of quads. So let's right click and shade this smooth, and we can press S and scale it down like this, and we'll create a sun and place it behind the cloud. So let's press G then Y and move it here. And now back to the camera by pressing 0 on a numpad, and let's press G and move it somewhere here. And I think it would look better if this was other way around. So let's press S then X and -1 to flip it. Now I'll confirm with the enter and Control A and apply that scale. So now we have much more space around here to actually place that sun. And let's play with that size a little bit. Something like that should be enough. And what I want to do here is to kind of show the sun rotating with these little dots as sun rays, and then have some raindrops underneath the cloud, so it's kind of a partially cloudy with a chance for showers. So let's hold Shift S and snap cursor to select it. And now what I want to do is to press Alt D then Z and move this up and scale it down. And to be able to animate this effectively, because I want that sequenced animation where these rays pop out of the sun, so I'll create some helper objects. Let's press Shift A and let's add an empty. And now select the sphere, select the empty by holding Shift and press Ctrl P and parent to object. And we can now basically proceed with the animation. So what I want to do here is to expand the timeline and select the sphere. And first let's set up the timeline so it has like 90 frames. That should be enough. And now let's crop this to, I don't know, something like frame 25. And let's press N to enable the side panel. And here we can just right click the Z axis and insert single keyframe. And now if you press Ctrl Tab in the timeline, you will switch to the graph editor, and we can see the single keyframe here with only one channel. So right now this is our target position on a frame 25, and we can just press Shift D to duplicate this keyframe, press X to slide this only on X and move it on a frame 1. And let's crop back to the frame 1, and we can press G then Y and move it up and down to define the position. And something like this should be okay, maybe not so much. Like here should be enough. And to better see what we are doing, let's press A to select all and period on a numpad to zoom in on our animation. And now I want to select this, press T and switch this to bounce. So you will see this automatic curve happening here, and it will basically work like this. Let me play it back. And that's what I want there. So we can now move forward with our animation, and around frame 50 we want the same keyframe like here. So Shift D, press X and slide it right there, and Shift D again and move it down to a similar position like the first one. Doesn't have to be the same because they're hidden anyway. So this will jump out and then slide back. Maybe this will need to be a little bit faster, we'll see about that. So this is our initial curve, and right now wherever we move this empty, the same animation will happen, and that includes rotation. So what we can do right now, let me scrub to frame 40 so you can better see what's happening there. Let me go to a front view by pressing 1 on a numpad, and now select both of these, and let's press Alt D, and you'll now need to be careful to change these commands. Alt D, but don't click anywhere, just press R immediately and enter 30 on a numpad, and then minus to go to the opposite direction and enter. So we basically created a duplicate, enabled rotation, rotated 30 degrees into the opposite direction and confirmed. And now if we press Shift R, we will repeat that command and create something like this, which is exactly what I want. And now we can just drag a selection here to select all of these empties. Look from the front again by pressing 1 on a numpad, and then press R and 30 to rotate this 30 degrees. So this is at a little bit of an angle. And now if you play back the animation, it happens on all of them, but we want to sequence them, separate them from each other. So it's like a more snappy type of animation. So let's select them by holding Shift. And let's go Object, Relations, and make single user and choose Object Animation. So we'll start with the first one here, and it will begin its animation on the frame 1. That's totally okay, and then it will be sequencing and rippling through the others. So let's select the second, but I don't want to shift the whole animation. I just want to select these first 2 keyframes and press G, then X, and move it 5 frames. Maybe not even so much, like 4 would be enough. So let's select the other one. Let's drag a selection here. That will be like frame 8. Now this one here. And the last one. So if you now select all of them, you will see these animation shifts, and if you play it back, they kind of jump after each other, but then go back at the same time, which is exactly what I want. Maybe we can shift this a little bit further away for all of them. We'll see how that works with the rest of the animation, and maybe we can move this a little bit, spread it out. And now let's select the sun, and let's go to the frame 1, and I will press R and minus 90 degrees, so that should rotate it counterclockwise. And let's go ahead and insert single keyframe on the Y rotation here, and then we want to scrub through this, and when they all appear, the sun should be rotated on 0. So let's enter 0 here, and right click and insert single keyframe. Now if you don't see that rotation here, just press A in the graph editor and period on a numpad to focus your view on your animation. And let's play it back so we actually see what's happening there. But what I forgot to do is to parent these empties to the sun. So let's go to the frame 25. That's very important because I want this to be parented when the rotation is 0. So let's just drag a selection here, shift click the sun and Ctrl P and parent to object. So now it'll be rotating. Let's go to the front view and let's rotate this and see how they jump out, just like that. And now I want to select this keyframe, press Shift D and X to slide this to around frame 60, and then move to the end of the animation, and I want to complete the full circle. So let's just enter 270 here and right click and insert single keyframe. And now we'll just need to, edit this curve so we have a better motion. So again, I'll press A and focus our animation. And here I will enable wireframe overlay just to see how this is rotating. So let's play it back, and we can see this starts the rotation, then stops for a bit, and then finishes its full rotation. And I want it to keep moving right here. So let's press G, then Y, and move this down tiny bit. And here we can move this one up and readjust these handles so we get a little bit more linear motion in between those 2 keyframes, something like this. So it kind of slows down and then continues the slide movement. So if we now play it back, and then it goes away. I don't want the animation to stop at the end, I want it to continue. So let's just select this handle here and press G and move it in a way that it kind of goes in a linear way towards the first keyframe. And then we'll try to replicate this angle at the end here. Something like that. And now let's play it back. Okay, that's much better. And basically that's the sun animation. And now I just want to add few of these droplets in the front and then move on to the materials and lighting. And let's now disable the wireframe overlay. We don't need it anymore probably. And now let's hold Shift S and snap cursor to world origin, and let's press Shift A and we'll add another round cube. Right click, shade this smooth, press S to scale it down, and press G then Z to move it down. Let's scale it some more so we have like elegant small droplets here. And let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad and maybe scale it even more. And then let's animate this droplet before we duplicate them. So let's go to the frame 1 and I want to add scale keyframe, so let's press I and insert scale. Now we'll move around like 15 frames, scale this up a tiny bit, and press I and insert scale again. Now let's press period on a numpad and let's select the first keyframe, press Shift D and X and move it here, and this can be a little bit longer, and here we can compress this a little bit more. So it looks like this small pulse, maybe even faster. Yeah, something like that. And now we'll just press Alt D and duplicate a few of these around, just like that. But again, they're doing the same thing, so we'll need to select them all, and similar as before, go Object, Relations, mixing a user and object animation. And now we can select them one by one and just press G then X and move this animation around. Let me zoom out so we can see how it's spread out, and then select this one here, move it there, and here as well. So now we have something like this. Let's look from the camera view and maybe make all of this a little bit smaller. And to make this smaller, remember we have the scale keyframed, so let's press Shift A and we'll add another empty and just move this down like that, somewhere in the middle. And now let's select all of them and parent them to empty. And now if you scale the empty, you know it's independent of that animation, so we can just scale this up no matter what the animation is. And we can move it around as well. Okay, I kind of like this. And one last thing I wanted to add is some wiggle to this cloud. So let's go to the frame 1 and I will just add single keyframe to the Y rotation. And in the modifiers panel, if you don't have this here in the graph editor, just use the N, same as with the viewport. And now let's add a modifier and we'll add a noise modifier. And of course we'll need to make this a little bit more subtle. So let's scale it up to something like 9, for example, to begin with, and strength something really small like 0.01. That's too small probably, so let's try 0.1 and we'll see what it does. Yeah, I kind of like it, maybe even stronger. Something like 0.25. And then, since this is generated, we'll need to offset, so it kind of begins here at 0, and then play with the scale to actually match it. So you can see this is going down here, same as here, so this should just loop nicely. And now we have our little weather icon animation ready, so we can proceed with some, materials and lighting effects. So first of all, let's press Shift A and I'll add a plane. Let's press R, then X and 90 degrees, and press G then Y and move it towards the back and scale it up. This will be our background. And let's go to the render settings and switch on bloom and screen space reflections and some refraction, so we have an EV preview. And then I'll prepare cycles as well with the GPU and some denoising, and adjust the tiling size to 512 and sampling as well. And let's now go ahead and switch to material preview. Let's go to our camera view by pressing 0, and with the plane selected, let's go to the materials tab, create a new material, and I want to go for color like this, for example. That should work just fine, maybe a little bit darker, and increase the roughness. Now with the cloud, I will just leave this white but go full white and increase the roughness as well here. And with the sun, I want to add, of course, a yellow material with a full roughness here. And since we created these small rays from the sun, they should be yellow as well right now. And now select these droplets and let's go and create a new material here. And I will scroll down, and in the viewport display, that's for the EV purposes only, I'll enable screen space refraction, so it's visible here in the material preview as well. And then increase the transmission and play with the color. So let's set the base color to really bright blue, something like this here. So we have these little droplets. And now let's press Ctrl B and limit our rendering preview only to the camera bounce, and let's preview the rendered. We have no lights in scene, so this is looking quite ugly. So let's press Shift A and we'll add a light. And in this case, I will add point light, and I want to create the backlight first. So let's move the point light here and I want something really strong like 3000. So this is already looking a little bit better with these droplets filled with that backlight. And now we'll just need to, you know, create some key light from the front. So we highlight the rest of the icon. So let's press Shift A and we'll add area light, move this up and set something like 1000 or even smaller, something like 500 should be enough. And then press G, then Y and move it towards the front. And we can do that from the camera view so we can see what the light is doing when we are moving it. I don't want it to be full frontal light, but I want to have this edge highlighted here. Then, you know, we are able to move this up and down. Depends on how strong the light is supposed to be. And then I'll hold period on a keyboard, switch to 3D cursor and press Shift D and R to rotate this from the bottom. And now let's enter something small like 100. That'll be just a tiny additional light that will create these highlights from the bottom. And now let's go to the render settings again, and in the color management I will increase the contrast here to the medium high, but I can see clearly that this is too bright. So let's go to the world settings, and first of all let's add, you know, some purple light that will blend our colors together nicely. That's the first thing I want to do. And then let's select the point light here and let's add some blue tone to it, or maybe something like purple. That'll kind of create this nice gradient in the background. We can maybe saturate it a little bit more. Yes, something like this should work nicely. And then we can make this like a darker violet so it blends together like this. Okay, I quite like that, but I want to move this closer to the background like this and make it even stronger here. Okay, I really like that. So let's play our animation. This is what we have here. You know, it's noisy right now because this is a Cycles preview, but something like this I had in mind for the weather animation, and I really hope you enjoyed this one. And if you did, please don't forget to leave that like. And if you actually do this tutorial and you want to share your results, remember we have now a Discord channel. So find a link in the description, join our Discord and share your results. And again, if you're new to the channel and you want to see more like this, hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.